I'm here with a bit of jet lag. I'm also here yesterday. I spent the day as a guest actor at the School of the Arts, Film School, same place that some of you have seen Mud, which is one of the hits of the year with Matthew McConaughey. That was filmed by one of the student directors some time back. He graduated that program. So we were in Hong Kong. I didn't get the script. I'm just sharing this with you. So yesterday, I spent the day with a group of actors playing a gambler, a cowboy gambler, and I stood at the bar most of the day. Any of you who've ever been involved with film, you know they shoot and reshoot. And so actually when Jacques from Brazil or Argentina called me on Wednesday and said, we're shooting this weekend. And he said, we're shooting Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I said, well, I'm fine with Saturday and I'm fine with Monday, but I cannot be there Sunday. And he said, we delayed, I wrote the script partly around you. The core of the film is being filmed on Sunday. And I said, but I can't be there Sunday. And he said, well, why not? And I said, because I have to do a presentation with my friends at the Unitarian Church in Abingdon, Virginia. So we talked about that, and he said, well, I'll get back to you on the script. Keep in mind, this was a role that I had really cherished somewhat. So he got back to me Friday night, and he said, well, I've rewritten the script. You're going to love this. And I said, well, you haven't sent it to me. I need to see my lines. And he said, well, basically, you'll just be drinking and laughing. There you go. There you go. So I'm here, and they're shooting today some of it. Great experience. But I wouldn't trade anything. I love this group. I carry you in my heart around the world. I just heard you mention Sean O'Sullivan. He's very dear to me, a fellow poet, and the sharing and concern that you have for others, you're just special. And so that's, we are here. We are back from Hong Kong. I'll talk a little bit about that later. I did want to mention Sybil Britton today, and I jotted down this poem about Sybil. Gray hair, determined eyes, slender, vulnerable body, strong heart, and a brain that tells us over and over, you can be better, we can be better, we can be better. Now try, now try, now try. Question, question, question. Never, never stop trying. So I dedicate that to Sybil Britton today. Now I want to talk a little bit, well, let me read one brief poem by Anne Sexton, which I think of Sybil. When I read this poem, it's the title of it is Courage. And some of you know Anne Sexton's work, and this is entitled Courage, and these are the last two stanzas. Later, if you have endured a great despair, then you did it alone, getting a transfusion from the fire, picking the scabs off your heart, then wringing it out like a sock. Next, my kinsman, you powdered your sorrow, you gave it a back rub, and then you covered it with a blanket, and after it had slept a while, it woke to the wings of the roses and was transformed. Later, when you face old age and its natural conclusion, your courage will be shown in the little ways. Each spring will be a sword you'll sharpen. Those you love will live in a fever of love. And you'll bargain with the calendar. And at the last moment, when death opens the back door, you'll put on your carpet slippers and stride out. And that's dedicated to Sybil. There's a poem. We've been in Hong Kong for 5 weeks. Have you been in that part of the country? It's quite crowded, 7 million people. You get off the Our daughter-in-law took us downtown the second day we were there to central Hong Kong. And I got off the metro, and Patty and I walked into that crowd. And I'm telling you, it's just a total culture shock. And I've been in China before, but to experience that many people coming at you at one time. So I start walking, trying to pick between the people. And our daughter-in-law says, Dad, come on, just keep flowing. They will part. And it's like the sea parts when you go there. Some beautiful experiences. Everyone experiences their life and so on in their own way. And people will come back and tell you what they saw and what they experienced and this sort of thing. We all have our own slant on it, but one of the things that I really appreciate coming back are the trees and green grass rather than high-rise buildings. I mean, it's a concrete forest there within central Hong Kong. And they don't build, if you've been there, you know, they just keep going straight up. You know, they don't go out, there's no place to go. So you're just going straight up. And the children, our son, who we raised to be a hippie, and he's a corporate fat cat, makes a lot of money. You know how children tend to do what you want them to do. And he paid her way over there, and they're very great to us, his wife as well. And that's a long story because she's on the medical faculty at Duke, and they have a new baby. So we came back on the plane. I'm a little shaky with a 16-month-old. Have you ever experienced an 18-hour ride on an hour plane with a 16-month-old? It's quite challenging. So anyway, they live there in a $6,500 a month apartment. And the children go down in this fancy area where there's no grass and try to ride their skateboards around this little pool. And that's basically where the children play. So I was thinking of the song, you know, poetry comes from a lot of places. One of my favorite areas to get poems from are from songwriters. Some of you remember Cat Stevens. You remember Cat Stevens? Well, I thought of this song about Hong Kong, and I was reflecting on it. And it's, Where Do the Children Play? You remember that song. Well, I think it's fine building jumbo planes or taking a ride on a cosmic train. Switch on summer from a slot machine. You get what you want to if you want, because you can get anything. I know we've come a long way. We're changing day to day. So tell me, where do the children play? Will you roll? Well, you roll on roads over fresh green grass where your lorry loads pumping petrol gas. And you make them long and you make them tough, but they just go on, and it seems you can't get off. Oh, I know we've come a long way. We're changing day to day. So tell me, where do the children play? Well, you've cracked the sky. Scrapers fill the air. But will you keep on building higher till there's no more room up there? Will you make us laugh? Will you make us cry? Will you tell us when to live? Will you tell us when to die? I know we've come a long way. We're changing day to day. But tell me, where do the children play? That's by Cat Stevens. I follow this up with one of my own poems because I like to talk about poetry from the heart. And this is the third time I've done this. And the first time I did it, you've always been so kind to me. You said, well, we'd like to hear more of your poetry. Big mistake, because you're going to hear more of my poetry. Another thing about Hong Kong is, you know, Philippines have been in the news a lot, and our son has a nanny there, and all the nannies come from the Philippines. And they have that's sort of like what my mother did when she left the mountains of western North Carolina over here and went to New York and became a maid. But they're very good at what they do. And this is what I wrote about the maids who come and the nannies who come to Hong Kong. They arrive from Manila, resented by the locals, take the jobs that few want, care for the babies of the light-skinned foreigners, smile politely, open doors, and hover over the children in their care, give love, send money home, provide kindness and gentleness to the money makers, the calculating, lonely, daring money makers. So that's dedicated to the women who come and the nannies who come from the Philippines. And I wrote that after sitting outside of a mall, and it's covered in malls. If you love to shop, you would love Hong Kong. I mean, it's just malls everywhere. And I'm sitting there on a concrete bench outside a mall, and a young lady comes up beside of me and sits down. So she said, "Sir, you're American?" I said, "Yes, I'm from the States." And she said, "Well, I'm from the Philippines, and I'm a nanny. And I'm a college graduate, and I came here to get work." And I said, "Well, how do you like it?" And she said, "I don't like it. I've been here 2 months, and I'm keeping a 4-year-old boy, and he hits me, and the parents don't seem to think that's a problem. And I think I'll go back. I have to give a 30 days notice, and I think I'll be returning fairly soon, but I have to save up for it because I had to pay the agent, $1,000 to get my job here." So anyway, I wrote a poem about her. I've got a lot of I've got so many poems for you guys, that are just here, and I haven't put them. Patty made me put one into a book, which you may have a copy in your library, but I need to pull these poems. When you write poetry, you just let it flow, right? I mean, that's what I do. Now, we have some people who are in academia here and very well respected, but I like to call myself a primitive poet. And what I do is what the Beats call the flow of consciousness. So I just, if I got something on my mind and I talk too much overtly, and my wife will tell you that, then I just write it. I try to write it down. But I believe in the spoken word. I grew up with the spoken word. I grew up around people who told stories. And that's what I like to do. That's the way I live. I live with stories in my mind. This is one called, I'm going to give you this one. Talk a little bit more about Hong Kong. But, I'm always interested in how we form opinions and so forth. And there's not any topic that I won't talk about. Now, you may be uncomfortable, and I'm not going to offend you. But if you want to talk about something privately or publicly, I'll talk with you about it, all right? I mean, I'm pontificating here a little bit, but there ain't nothing off limits in my mind that I won't discuss with you, all right? But gender is something I get in trouble with, I'm still working through this, came through academic feminism, so forth. And I all my life, I have a wonderful wife, 2 beautiful daughters. I don't understand women, but I'm trying, okay? And they're trying to understand me. And we're still working through this process. I love this one. I just love this one. This is called Gender. She is dressed perfectly. Skirt, blouse, long, slender legs, red hair, English accent, scent of a woman. Early morning, she exits the elevator, and I ask, "Busy day?" She replies, "Airport." "Oh," I say, "have a good day at your airport office." In early evening, she returns, and I say, "Busy day at the airport?" "No," she replies, "busy days in the skies." I'm a pilot for U.S. Airlines. I thought she clearly changed into... This just was amazing, man. It's such a class act, but don't you love it, I mean, I loved it, just the fact that what gender. She didn't, I mean, she dressed the way she wanted to dress. Now, I'm sure she was not flying that plane that way. I mean, I don't think so. But I love that, you know. Another person we met there in a grocery store, and this is just a little characterization. We go in the mall grocery store. Everything happens in the mall in Hong Kong. I mean, it's mall. It's endless. You know, I even started enjoying shopping. I mean, there are clothes there. I had nothing to do but just, you know, go in Bossini, the Italian place there, and you get all these clothes. So it's such a great place there. You don't have to go to a discount mall. You can get the best stuff because they're making it there and sending it in these. You know, there's Rolex watches, there's everything. But I go in Bossini and just change clothes, try things on, change them, just have something to do. It got kind of boring. His hair is gray, in his 60s, Australian. He says grapefruit are the best for blood pressure, and his Chinese girlfriend, 50, rubs his back. We're in the grocery store line. Tells me he is a good poet and attorney, and invites me to join him at the Jockey Club in Hong Kong. It's very famous. And I thank him and hear baby Pearl say, "Granddad." Doesn't that put things in perspective? I didn't make it to the Jockey Club. Okay, enough about Hong Kong, but I'm happy to share with you our experiences there. Since we were talking about nature, I wanted to read one poem. Since I've been talking about nature, you haven't had a chance to talk. I would ask you to think of, as I talk here today, a favorite poem that you have that you keep in your mind, or someone that you really like, a favorite poet or poem, and then a poem that you have in your heart. And I know you have one. Something you've been kind of, and you can share it if you want to today at the end of the program, but something you've been thinking about that you would like to write a poem. I'm not going to ask you to give me the poem today, but just one you have in your heart, you've been like spinning there. I received, I get a number of poems from my radio program, because as we like to say on WEHC 90.7, by the way, we'll be on at 12:30 or 1 o'clock today. You're going back home or something, turn on 90.7. And I have an interesting interview by Shirley Dean out of Winston-Salem. She's a world traveler. Fascinating interview. She wrote, one of her books was entitled An Unreasonable Woman. And she talks in that book about dating Jackie Gleason and on and on and on, and going to South Africa and taking on the authorities there. It's quite. I think that'll be on today at 12:30. This is by Wendell Berry. Most of you know Wendell. He's our saint of the woods. You know, we all love Wendell. I mean, I love him. My God, who doesn't love Wendell Berry? You know, we're going to build statues to him. I first heard about Wendell when I was at the University of Kentucky, and one of my friends said, "You really ought to get to know this guy." Wendell was young and so on, and I didn't take his poetry classes or anything. I never really took too much poetry classes. I was always so turned off by the professors that taught it, and my high school English teachers taught me to hate poetry and scared me to death. But I had a couple of good ones. So I didn't take Wendell, but Wendell's he's quite good, and he wrote this about. By the way, later I tried to get him to come to Appalachian State, and I called him up and I got his wife on the phone, and she said he's up feeding the sheep or shearing the sheep, and he can't talk to you right now. And that's as close as I ever got to Wendell Berry, and now I'm in here reading his poem today. It's called Look It Over. I leave behind even my walking stick. My knife is in my pocket. But that I have forgot. I bring no car, no cell phone, no computer, no camera, no CD player, no fax, no TV, not even a book. I go into the woods. I sit on a log provided at no cost. It is the earth I've come to, the earth itself, sadly abused by the stupidity only humans are capable of. But as ever itself, free, a bargain. Get it while it lasts. Get it while it lasts. When you go out today and you look around, whatever your religious persuasion, you thank the Great Spirit of God or whatever for what we have here. I'm telling you, folks, around this world, it's just not there. It's disappearing. Pollution in Hong Kong, and the money makers are in there making fortunes. But the pollution in China, if you've been following it, coming in from the mainland, they don't call Beijing anymore. They call it Beijing, I think it is, because of the pollution and the tourism, and they're getting concerned about it in mainland China, in Beijing, because the tourism has gone down 50%. And I thought, that when people ran out of land and water, they would stop. They would just stop building. They go straight up over there. It's hard to see the sky because the buildings are just straight up. So, okay. Pontificating there a little bit. Now, these are poems from the heart, and as I said, I've had an interesting year this year. I really would love to talk more about my heart. About 8 months ago, I was having a little breathing problem. Now, I'm a macho man. I thought I was in great shape. I ride the creeper trail and do all that kind of stuff. And I went to one of these urgent care places, these quick stop-ins when you're having a little problem. So I went in and I said, I have a little asthma. And they agreed with me at urgent care there in Winston-Salem that I had a little asthma, and they gave me a little something, and I'm taking this stuff for asthma. I'm thinking, well, I'll go swimming and get rid of this asthma because swimming is good for you. And I tried different things. And you know what? That didn't get rid of it. And I started getting a left pain here on the left side and into my shoulder. And I'm like, that doesn't feel like asthma. So somebody told me to go see Dr. Fiery. I didn't have a doctor there. And I went in and they did an EKG. I'm sharing we all hear about heart attacks and the drama and so forth. And, life's tragic, but it ain't that serious. And so the old doctor, the nurse said, well, we gave him an EKG, and he's fine. And he said, Dr. Fiery, don't you love that name? If you're going to be a doctor, be a Dr. Fiery. And Dr. Fiery said, I'm not buying that. So I'm sending you over to the emergency room. Do you have anyone with you who can drive you? Now, Patty was painting. She's dedicated to that. And I didn't want to disturb her anyway. And I said, I'll just drive myself. He said, oh, okay. Be careful. And I did. And so it was a long story. But then I got down to Duke, and they figured I'd probably have a stent. Steve, you can appreciate this. And so I'm thinking, well, a stent's not too much. They said, yeah, you've been out in 24 hours. You go back there, and I'm ready for that stent. And they got these big machines in there and everything. And I hear one of the doctors say to the other one, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Wow. And I'm listening. I'm doped up, but I'm listening. And the other one says, yep, got the same thing over here. Then there's a little voice in my ear that says, we have good news and we have bad news. The good news is your heart's in good shape. The bad news is you have 90% blockage on the left and 100% blockage on the right. So we can't do a stent, So as a result of that, I had quadruple bypass, which gives me bragging rights. Now I don't care if you've had triple bypass or double or stent. I've had quadruple. And to impress me, you're going to have that. Is it quintuple? Where do you go, Rob? Is anybody in here had quintuple? If you have, more power to you. Actors said, I got to share. Can I get a little random here? I got to share this. We're sitting around, and these guys, all the ego is flying and down there yesterday in the tent, in the actor's tent. And they're all telling stories. And they're telling about their credits and what they've been in. And, now with their iPhone, they can share who they've been, who they've played, and everything. So they're talking, and one guy says, well, I do this on the side. I'm a police officer, and I'm a member of a SWAT team. And I just got back from Utah doing a presentation and all. And my agent called me to come up here and do this scene and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, man, this is getting to be an ego thing. And I'm thinking, I got an ace in the hole. And so they're talking this and that, and then I waited, right? And I waited till the conversation get a little slack. And 6 of us in this tent. One fellow had flown back from India to be in. And so I said, oh, they were eating bacon too. They brought us some bacon. And this fellow, he's 6'5", size shoe 14, beautiful shape, member of the SWAT team there in Charlotte. And he said, well, I'm eating a little bacon here, but I can do this because I'm in good shape. I waited. I said, nah. I said, that's not going to make any difference if you have a heart problem. He said, oh, really? I said, yeah. I had open heart surgery 8 months ago. Silence. Oh, really? Well, that's impressive, see. So then I got to share my story with them there in the tent before they called us back for another film and so forth. And so I'll just share that. So if you have this happen, and it is on your mind from time to time. My wife is tired of hearing about it, but I'm not tired of talking about it. But as I say, what is it Woody Allen says? I don't mind dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens. I dedicated this to a nurse. I was in intensive care, and I'd had a pretty tough night. And, thank God for the medical profession. And her name is Farrell. And I really had, I needed some attention. And, serious attention because I was in pain. And I'd had a rough night. And she was just such a tremendous nurse. There are pros in this game. It's like me. There are mediocre poets, and then there's some great ones, and then there's some really great stars in the nursing profession. This is dedicated to Farrell. She appeared early on the second day. I understand you had a rough night. The rest of your days here will be better. I'm assigned to you. I'm in charge here. Look at me. Look at me. We will get through this together. Together we will get through this. Look at me. Her hands clasp my face. Look at me. Talk to me. Talk to me. We will get through this together. So I dedicate that to the cardiac nurse down at Duke Hospital. And she's a very fine person. Okay. I want to read a poem to you that will inspire you. And it's one that in my first book, and I'm working on my second book, which, the publishing business is rather fascinating, isn't it? It's just fascinating. Everybody's a publisher, and they want to help you and so forth, and tell you how to write your poems and so forth. But anyway, here it is. Here's my book, so you'll know I'm legitimate. The title of this poem is Never Read a How-To Book. Between Whitman's Leaves of Grass, great poets of the world, and Charles Bukowski's Notes of a Dirty Old Man, you know Charles Bukowski, Steve. Notes of a Dirty Old Man were how to read poetry, how to write poetry, and how to present poetry. Obscene titles. Totally obscene titles. I started to grab the books and stomp on the covers. However, that was not acceptable for my age and station in life. May I tell you something? May I tell you something? Never read a how-to book. Never. Go deep into your soul. Cry inside your heart. Feel the rhythm of your joy and anger. Then hurl your message to that friend or stranger who is much lonelier than you and who has read far too many how-to books. That would be my advice for anyone who wants to get into the poetry business. I always like to read this one in Abingdon. It's called Market Day. Any of you ever go down to the market here? I like to do little snapshots in my poetry, and these are some of my first poems. Market Day. 2 teenage brothers, homeschooled, Amish-looking, arrange and rearrange their organic vegetables and fruit, pretending that the gray-haired stranger does not exist, and wishing he would move so they could better view the full-figured woman who sells the organic dog biscuits. Now, I just happened to notice that one day down there. You know, I've got, I think I'm going to read you all this one because you're a good, trusting audience here, and I think I can go here. We don't have any children in the audience. I mean, this is, the title of this one, I got this poem from, sex is an interesting thing to me. I know it's not something we like to talk about. I mean, we show a lot of violence, the own story on TV, and we do all that sort of thing. But for some reason, and I've thought about it a lot ever since I saw the movie, the Kinsey Report. You ever see that movie? It was, I think it's the Kinsey Report, and I thought that meant a lot. And I actually wrote a poem not long ago, and I may not share it there in May, about my first sexual experience. And it got I sent it out to my friends over the internet. I'm a little random here today. And I got so many interesting different replies. It was just interesting. It really was fascinating to me. And I just sent it to different people to see their reaction, but it was heartfelt. The title of the poem is Early Education. Now, I may not read it to you today, but it was an early education. No 4-letter words in it. But this one's entitled, I got this from I'm just sharing this with you today. I think it's funny to me. And we were doing a film there at the School of the Arts, and we were underneath the Nissan building, and a lot of us were there, and there was a distinguished gentleman. Now, Patty said, they'll think it happened to you. This didn't happen to me. Could have, I guess. But he told me about it. He'd just gotten back from New Orleans, and so we were just sharing these stories, group actors, and this is entitled Pervert. Walking down Bourbon Street near Café du Monde, she smiles and flashes her breast to 2 fraternity boys. My friend, a gray-haired gentleman walking along behind them, politely suggests, do that again. She turns, glares, and says, pervert. You're getting a little age on you when that changes. It's funny how those things change. This is called Hank. We're in the birthplace of country music. All of you realize that. We all love around here. We like to do country music, and you got some people in here perform it and do Carter programs. Harry does, and Carter family, and so on. And this is entitled Hank because they said that Hank Williams, you of course are familiar with Hank Williams, the last place he was seen alive, was in front of the Burger Bar down in Bristol. He was coming through there. It's a long story. It happened, 1955. It's called Hank. Snowflakes dance on the black Cadillac's windshield. His teenage driver says, Hank, I'll be back. He nods his head, reaches for the can of Pabst Blue Ribbon, gazes up State Street toward the birthplace of country music, and mumbles, there ain't no light. There ain't no light. There just ain't no light. And his spirit floats over the mountains toward Poor Valley. His teenage driver flirts with the waitress inside the Burger Bar, and the jukebox plays, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. That's in tribute to Hank Williams. A couple more here. This was, again, one of my poems, and I like to read it. It's rather somber, but I read about this, and newspaper, and we spent a lot of time in Mexico, and this is called Little Pink Shoes. You know, people at this very moment, I'm sure, are trying to get across the border and get into this country. Now, I know we're Unitarians and we question everything, and I'm one to question our government for everything. Let me tell you something. This country's got some pretty good things going to it for it, too. And that's why the hell everybody's trying to get in here. You know, or at least a lot of people. And I'm in Hong Kong, and I pick up the newspaper, and I believe the U.S. was contributing $200 million to the Philippines. And you know what mainland China gave? $100,000. Seems to register a little bit, but don't tell that to the politicians. Don't let them off the hook, okay? But this is about Mexican immigrants trying to get into the U.S. And I read this and it touched my heart about a little girl and what they found in the desert. Little pink shoes. Where's the small brown girl who left the little pink shoes in the Arizona desert? The little pink shoes she danced in on a warm summer night in Puebla, Mexico. Why did she leave them in the desert near the plastic bottles and abandoned backpack? Why is it illegal to wear the little pink shoes? And where is the small brown girl, the girl with the smiling eyes who danced in the Zocalo on a warm summer night in Puebla, Mexico? That's dedicated to all my Mexican friends and particularly the illegal immigrants in this country. And I can tell you that they're out there, and I've got some very good friends who are trying to make it in this country without being seen. I want to wrap up here today with a poem or so. I told you about traveling. Come on, Henry. You should never do this, and you should always have your poems ready. And there's got to be one here that's. I'm going to close with these two poems. The first one really is just a testimonial to waking up at night. I wake up quite a bit. Any of you ever wake up angry at night? Or am I the only one? I mean, I know you wake up for a lot of other things, but sometimes I wake up and I just feel so compassionate and so Buddhist because I love to read that, and I'll read all that. But this is the way I woke up one night. Sometimes, it's called anger. Sometimes in the early hours, the anger comes. It heats on the stove and builds enough to fill a quart jar, placed on the shelf in the cellar and hidden there all winter until spring and the flowers appear. And this last one we got home, it's called Home, and I'll dedicate this to all of us who are going home one way or another. Home, fire in the fireplace, reading Wendell-Berry, wife asleep, dog asleep, coffee, grandkids' pictures on the wall, daughter's note inside a book, love you, Dad. Home, where my heart beats at a safe pace. Thank you for having me today.